Hello, this is Yogeshwar, and today's topic of discussion will be on Lal Kitab. You must have heard about Lal Kitab as an astrological book, which is getting increasingly popular in recent times. And you would have seen several websites and several astrologers talking about it. And people have different opinions about Lal Kitab, but we are going to discuss in detail as to what is the origin. Like I said, these videos are about going into the basics, finding out what the origin is, who's written these astrological texts. Is it coming from the ancient sages or it's just somebody's imagination? So on and so forth. So today's video will discuss about Lal Kitab, and Lal Kitab is actually a set of 5 books on Hindu astrology and palmistry as well, which was written in the 19th century. And the language in which Lal Kitab is written is Urdu. Urdu, as you know, is spoken very commonly in Pakistan. And I'm not sure, but it may be the official language of Pakistan as well. And there are certain areas in India as well, like Lucknow and some other places in North India where Urdu had been very prevalent. And this Lal Kitab is written in the language Urdu. And basically, what it has is certain descriptions or verses, rather, which are in the form of farmans. Now, farman in Urdu language is nothing but an order. So it's described as farmans. So somebody, obviously, who has written this book has mentioned these poetic verses as farmans, pretty much was very confident that he is giving out an order. And he was very confident that what he's writing in this book or what he is saying in this book is very true. And he seems to be a very authoritative person as far as astrology is concerned. He feels that whatever he's saying is true, and that's why he's described it as farmans. Also, these poetic verses have been described as one farman, and the second, they describe certain remedies. And it is believed that this Lal Kitab, or Red Book as it would be called in the English language, has its origin from Persia. And as we know that the origin of astrology, Vedic astrology, has been in India with the ancient sages like Bhrigu, Parashara, then Jaimini. Jaimini is the next generation of Parashara. Bhrigu was the origin, the father, and it's believed that he got his learning directly from Lord Brahma. Well, these are all things which some people call it mythology and some people have a lot of faith in it. But this book, Lal Kitab, is very recent, and it is written in the 19th century. And it talks about, like I said, farmans and remedial measures. And in recent times, people have been having a lot of faith in this, and they've started to believe in it. And a lot of people have said that yes, they've had very good results, but the origin is such that we don't know who is the originator or the writer of this book, but it's coming from Persia. So originally, like I said, Vedic astrology originated in India, and then it moved westwards towards Persia, and it is known that there were astrologers in Persia who were doing astrology, and probably they got some of the knowledge from the east, or from the Vedas, or from the eastern side of the planet, and they kind of merged it with their own system of astrology. In the east, the sages gave a lot of importance to the lagna, or the ascendant, and Persian astrologers gave a little more importance to the moon sign, and the movement of moon, and the placement of moon, and the placement of moon where when a person was born. So there was a slight difference here. And in the recent times, there was a gentleman by the name of Pandit Roop Chand Joshi, and he lived in Punjab in the 20th century, and he kind of compiled these books, these 5 great books of knowledge on astrology, and he studied them and came to be known as an expert in this field of Lal Kitab astrology. So people regard Pandit Roop Chand Joshi, and he was in Punjab during the British time in India before 1950, I would say, around that time. And he's considered to be an expert, and apparently he was working for some British officers and the government, and there were certain British officers who were pretty impressed by his knowledge, because he provided them with some insights about their lives based on this Lal Kitab, which he mastered and which he compiled. And since then, it started to gain prominence, this Lal Kitab. And like I said, in the recent times, people have benefited a lot, especially through the remedies. So what exactly is the principle of Lal Kitab? Let's see. Now, as you see in the screen, this is a Vedic typical North Indian birth chart, and you will see several colors here. And the basis of Lal Kitab is nothing but it believes on the natural rulership of a planet in a birth chart rather than the lagna system which we used. Like, for example, in the Vedic astrology based on Parashara and on Gemini and on Brigu, we go and we find out what the ascendant is, or what the lagna is, or what the rising sign is, and then we determine the various zodiac signs and the 12 zodiac signs, and we determine what planets are sitting in those zodiac signs, and then we determine what effects these planets are giving in these respective zodiac signs based on their placement in a particular zodiac sign, where it could make them exalted or debilitated, or it may be strong or weak, or what degrees out of 30 degrees in the zodiac each individual zodiac is the planet having, what nakshatra it is in, so on and so forth. Too much of a detail, but Lal Kitab does not consider all that. All it considered is that the natural rulership of the zodiac signs. So for them, one ascendant, or all the ascendant in the whole world, will be ruled by one planet, which is Mars, because Mars is the ruler of Aries, which is the first zodiac sign, and it rules over the ascendant. So for people following the principles of Lal Kitab, Mars would be ruling over everybody's ascendant. Every living human being's ascendant is being ruled by Mars, because it's a natural ruler, the first house. Similarly, the natural ruler of the second house would be Venus, because the zodiac sign of the second house naturally is Taurus. Similarly, when you see this color green, the third house is represented by Mercury because of its zodiac sign of Gemini, and the natural rulership of the third house will be Mercury because the sign is Gemini. Fourth house, Cancer, ruler Moon. Fifth house, Leo, ruler Sun. Sixth house, Virgo, ruler Mercury. Seventh house, Libra, ruler Venus. Eighth house, Scorpio, ruler Mars. Ninth house, Sagittarius, ruler Jupiter. 10th house, Capricorn, ruler Saturn. 11th house, Aquarius, ruler Saturn. 12th house, Pisces, ruler Jupiter. So that is the basis of Lal Kitab astrology. Now let's go to the planets, and they also believe in 9 planets, which is mentioned in the Vedic astrology given to us by Bhrigu, Parashara, Gemini, Atri, so on and so forth. So there's no difference there. So I'm believing and I'm assuming and I'm thinking that Lal Kitab is written in Urdu, which is not written in Sanskrit, and Urdu is mostly a combination of Persian and Arabic and North Indian towards the west, which is influenced by the Persian culture. But the basis is the Vedic astrology as given by these ancient sages. So somebody took this knowledge from India, from the ancient India, and took it westward to Persia, where they used it, and they created their own principles of this astrology, and it got compiled into these 5 books in Urdu, and now it is commonly known as Lal Kitab. So it does not go into details as far as the nakshatra is concerned. It does not go into details as far as the rulership of an ascendant is concerned. It does not get into details as far as the degrees of planets is concerned. It does not go into details as to the strength, so on and so forth. Pretty much, it does not get into all those details. So again, like I explained to you, the ruler of the first house has to be Mars in everybody's chart, because the first house, natural first house, is Aries, and the natural ruler is Mars. Now, as far as the planets are concerned, similarly, they know that, for example, to give you an example of Mars, since we're talking about the first house, they know that Mars gets exalted in Capricorn, but they will not consider Mars exalted in Capricorn as a zodiac sign. They will consider Mars exalted in the 10th house, because 10th house is represented as a natural house for Capricorn. So as per Vedic astrology, even if the 10th house is represented by some other zodiac sign, still if Mars is sitting in the 10th house, because the 10th house is Capricorn, naturally they will consider Mars as exalted in the 10th house. Like I said, if Mars is sitting in the 10th house, Lal Kitab astrologer will consider it exalted, whether it is the sign of Capricorn or not. Similarly, if Mars is sitting in the 4th house, a Lal Kitab astrologer will consider it debilitated, whether the 4th house is represented by Cancer or not, which is the debilitation zodiac sign as per Vedic astrology. It'll just know that the 4th house is represented as the 4th zodiac sign, and it's the natural rulership of the 4th zodiac sign is Cancer. So regardless of what the lagna or ascendant is, or regardless of what the zodiac sign is represented by the fourth house. If Mars is sitting in the fourth house, it'll be considered debilitated, and so on and so forth for all planets. So it's kind of funny because if somebody's Jupiter is exalted in the 10th house in the sign of Cancer, because as we know in Vedic astrology, Jupiter gets exalted in the sign of Cancer. So for example, if Jupiter is sitting in the 10th house in the sign of Cancer, which is considered its exaltation sign, a Vedic astrologer, a traditional Vedic astrologer, would consider it exalted. However, as per Lal Kitab, the same planet, even though it is sitting in its exaltation sign of Cancer, will be considered as debilitated just because it's sitting in the 10th house, and the 10th house, according to a Lal Kitab astrologer, is represented by Capricorn, and Jupiter gets debilitated in Capricorn. So that's the basic difference. So we have to figure out as to whether it makes sense or not. Try to readings, try to compare your Vedic readings with Vedic astrology readings and see whether it makes sense or not. Typically try to look, for example, we just discussed about Jupiter, to try to look for a Vedic chart where somebody's Jupiter gets exalted in the 10th house in the sign of Cancer, whether Jupiter is giving good results or not. For that sign, you have to figure that out. And based on that, you will be able to compare, because a Lal Kitab astrologer will say it should not give good results, even though it's sitting in the sign of Cancer. So compare charts like this, and you'll be able to figure out whether Lal Kitab makes sense or not. Now going to the remedies parts. And there are several remedies, and it's not possible to discuss all those remedies in this particular video about Lal Kitab. But Lal Kitab has very strange remedies, like throwing stuff in the running water, or using several things like throwing water somewhere, or feeding animals, or all those kinds of things, which, like I said, is not possible to discuss. And they have very specific remedies for each planet. Say for example, if Mars is sitting in a bad house, or it's giving bad results, or if it's malefic, they will have remedies related to Mars in that particular house. So every planet in all the 12 zodiac signs will have different remedies. So Mars, if malefic in the first house, will have a remedy, and Mars, if malefic in the second house, will have a different remedy. It will not be the same remedy. Similarly, Mars sitting in the third house will have a different remedy, which may be different from when Mars was sitting in the first house or the second house, if it's giving obviously malefic results. And similarly, there are different remedies for all the 9 planets, and different remedies for their placement in different zodiac signs, or different houses rather, because they don't even consider zodiac signs. They just talk about the planets and the houses where they are sitting. First house, second house, third house, fourth house. They don't talk about Mars sitting in a zodiac sign, or Jupiter sitting in a zodiac sign, or Mercury sitting in a zodiac sign. They say Mars sitting house number 1, house number 2, house number 3, house number 2. Similarly, all those planets where they are sitting, house number 1, 2, 3, 4. So this ends our little discussion on Lal Kitab, and it's upon you to do the research and figure out whether these charts, in comparison with the Vedic astrological charts, make sense, and whether the remedies which have been prescribed by the Lal Kitab, and like I've mentioned, that a lot of people have experienced amazing results, whether they make sense to you or not. And we'll be talking, hopefully we'll have another video on this some other time as well. But for now, goodbye. Check out my website below, and we'll talk to you in another video. Thank you.